Hello, welcome to today's virtual presentation. Thank you so much for joining us today. Before I introduce our keynote speaker, Visit Tri-Cities President and CEO Michael Novakovich, I'm going to share with you what's new and next for the Tri-Cities. We have some new hotels. The Courtyard by Marriott opened in Pasco near the Tri-Cities Airport in February of 2020, and we have a brand new hotel, Comfort Suites, opening this month in Kennewick near Southridge. What else is new at Tri-Cities is some of our existing hotels have gotten a fresh look. They've been recently renovated and rebranded. The M Hotel is now the Best Western Columbia River Hotel and Conference Center, and they changed names in May of 2019. And the Shiloh Inn is now the Riverfront Hotel Sure Stay Collection by Best Western Property, and they rebranded in January. So 2 hotels with a fresh look. And we have some new attractions as well. We've had 2 additional wineries join Bartholomew Winery and Monarcha Winery in our Columbia Garden Wine and Artisan Village. And what's next? More exciting hotel changes on the horizon. Woodspring Suites opening in Richland in 2020. That'll be a new extended stay property. And Red Lion Richland Hotel is converting to a Holiday Inn, and that's expected to happen in June of this year. So more to come. And what's next? With our meeting venues, we have a super exciting project that we're happy to share with you. There's a future expansion of the Three Rivers Convention Center in the works, and with that is going to be an attached 7-story hotel. And instead of me telling you more about it, I'm going to let you watch for yourself. In addition, we have some great attractions and activities that we have to offer in the Tri-Cities, but instead of me describing them to you, we put together this great video that we hope you enjoy that will showcase all we have to offer here. We hope you enjoyed our presentation so far, but it's not over. We save best for last. We have Michael Novakovich, our president and CEO.
Making vitality your reality. That's what we're talking about today. And it's so important, not just when we are sitting in the middle of what is a healthcare crisis that's impacting all of us, but even prior to this and after this passes, making vitality your reality is so important. We need you to be healthy. We need all of us healthy so we can do the things that we do. But how do we go about doing that? And what does this mean, making vitality your reality? Well, let's take a look at a definition of vitality. So vitality is the exuberant physical strength or mental vigor. It's exuberant physical strength or mental vigor. It's also the capacity for survival for the continuation of a meaningful, purposeful existence. You have a meaningful, purposeful existence, and so do I. We do. But let's back this thing back up. If we're going to have that, the meaningful, purposeful existence, and that continuation of it, we need to embrace physical and mental vigor. So physical strength, how do we grow physical strength? We've got a few people sitting in the room. What do? We work out, we lift weights, right? So what happens when we work out? We rip, we tear muscle, but the good news is, well, let's start out with the bad news. There's gonna be some pain involved, but it's good stuff, and here's why. When we rip and tear muscle, it grows back stronger so we can take on increased demands, and we need that. Same is true for mental vigor. We've got to enter some stretch and growth situations, these things that pull and tug at us, but we're going to come back stronger so we can take on additional demands. And it's good news. And if we want to be successful in this place, in this space, we need to take a look at these challenges in our lives and apply a corrective perspective to them. Apply a corrective perspective to achieve peace, prosperity, and well-being. So what I mean by this is when these challenging situations present ourselves, we've got choices. And one of them is to look for the opportunity in this challenge. Embrace it and say, you know what? It's not awesome, but I'm going to tackle this thing. And when I do it, it's going to be this stretch and grow moment for me. I'm going to develop new skills and a new set of tools. And the next time I see a mountain like that, it's going to become a molehill and I'm going to step right over it. But it's a choice we get to make. So I would tell you, embrace these challenges. Look for the opportunity. My team hears it from me. When preparation meets opportunity, success happens. So do your best to prepare for it. We're going to talk about some tools that you can employ so you can be prepared for the challenges that no doubt we're all facing. Well, one of the things that you can do is choose to be happy. And happiness has so many key benefits. Matter of fact, UC Berkeley did a study, and there's many medical studies out there that says when we choose optimism, when we choose happiness, that it improves our overall immune system, that it allows us to reduce our levels of stress, improves our heart health. We have fewer joint aches and pains, we recover quicker, and we have longevity of life. There's great benefits of it. Well, I'll tell you, when I think about my own personal happiness and then embracing mental vigor, there's been some areas in my life that I really needed to grow, right? I needed to embrace a stretch and grow moment. So I'm going to take you back to when I was 21 years old. So 21-year-old Michael. So we're going to apply some 21-year-old logic in here as we talk about this. So I've had a lot of opportunities throughout my career, of course, to embrace these stretch and grow moments and gain mental vigor. But it was when I was 21 that I was single, and I didn't want to be. I wanted somebody I could share my life with. My friends were great, but hanging out with a bunch of dudes was hanging out with a bunch of dudes, and that's not where I wanted to spend all of my time. The challenge for me, though, was I wasn't necessarily bold when it came to talking to individuals of the opposite sex. It was a scary thing for me. I just wasn't comfortable there. And so I can hear my mother saying, when we think about where do we meet our future loves, where do they come from? Mom logic. Michael, you don't want to find your future wife in a bar. And Mom might have been right, so I get this. So what's my logic? And I'm thinking, well, it'd be great if one of my friends could introduce me to somebody, because your friends will vet these individuals for you. So I don't wind up with some kind of crazy super psycho lady in my life, right? So friends are a great bet. So I'm just waiting for one of my friends to introduce me to Miss Right. So I'm in an alternative rock band at this time. This is 1991. Seattle scene just blew up. I am pursuing being a rock star. I'm giving it everything I've got to be in this space and at this point in my life. And this band I play in is pretty crunchy, and I'm a really aggressive drummer. So we're having rehearsal, and in walks one of my guitar players, his future wife, and she's got a friend with her, and I thought, now there's somebody I'd like to meet, but I've got a problem because I'm not bold, right? And I'm not going to engage in this situation as much as I should do it because I'm just not comfortable. So what I decided to do is this. The one thing I had going is I was this aggressive drummer. So I thought, I'm just going to go for it. So there's hair flying all over the place and sticks, and I'm doing everything I can do. And I thought certainly, this is 21-year-old logic here, that when I got done playing, this lady was going to come up to me and say, oh my gosh, you're an incredible drummer. Hi, my name's Jane. Because that's the way life works, right? This is how this is going to play out for me. So I go for it. I'm flailing around, I'm doing my thing. Right when we get done with rehearsal, this gal walks right out the door, never to be seen in that rehearsal studio ever again. I missed my moment. I missed this opportunity because I wasn't prepared to take action. I wasn't ready to operate in boldness. Well, fast forward about 6 months, and I had some friends invite me out to this place called Silent Sam's. It's here in the Tri-Cities. And I show up, and here's this gal. 6 months later, completely different group of people. They don't even know each other. Now, you need to understand my logic at the time. Again, this is 21-year-old logic, is that the things that we want to have in our life, it's kind of like Costco. So you know what I'm talking about? So you go to Costco, you see a thing. If you want to have it in your life, you better get it today, like toilet paper and water, apparently. If you want this thing, you better get it today, because if you come back tomorrow, it's not there. Well, in my life, my logic, Costco had just restocked. So now I've got to do something, right? I have to take action. So what does it look like? I thought, what am I going to say to this woman? And I've got it. I'm just going to own the situation that I was pretty timid, I was a little scared, a little bashful, I really wanted to introduce myself. I'm hoping that this would be endearing to her and she'd be warm enough to receive my introduction that, hi, my name's Michael, and maybe we'd spend the rest of our lives together. I didn't know where this was going to go. But I thought, I can't just lay all that on this woman. I got to figure out, how am I going to introduce it? Well, I had a plan. Her and I happened to walk up to the bar at the same time. We sit down, we order these beverages. She's right here sitting right next to me, and I thought, I got something kind of funny. You want to hear something a little crazy? And she kept looking forward, didn't even look at me, and she says, no. And I about fell out of my bar stool because I thought, oh, she's got to be kidding. She wasn't. She took her adult beverage from this bartender and went in the back to meet our friends, never to talk to me. I was crushed. Here I'd finally taken some action. I embraced this stretch and grow moment, this place I didn't want to go, but I fell flat on my face. Well, there was good news in this. I recognized I could do this. It wasn't that bad. I mean, it didn't end well for me, but I recognized I could do this thing. So fast forward a couple of months, and I'm sitting in my apartment, and I hear this knock, knock, knock at the door. And so I go answer the door, and here's a friend of mine, her name's Michelle, and she has this cute young blonde gal with her. Now, this is not the band gal, a completely different lady, but she brought this cute young blonde gal over to meet my roommate. We'll call him Crazy Chad, because his name was Chad, and he was most definitely crazy. Michelle thought they'd be a cute couple. Well, he wasn't home, so they said they were going to go run some errands. They'd be back a little later. And I said, hey, that's great. I said, Michelle, while you're out and about, and I pulled out a $10 bill, I said, would you mind picking me up a 6-pack of adult beverages? And she says, sure. So they go about their way, and I go about my business, and I'm doing whatever I'm doing for the next little bit. I eventually make dinner, and right when I'm finishing dinner, I hear this knock, knock, knock on my door, and I thought it must be Michelle. So I go to open the door. Michelle's nowhere to be seen, but here's this cute young blonde gal, and she's standing like this. If this was the threshold of my door, she was as far away from it as she could be. She's got this 6-pack of adult beverages kind of right out towards the door. She's back here. Now, something you need to understand. She didn't know me. And Michelle, while they're out and about, I found out later, says, hey, can you run this back by Michael's? Drop me off at home and run it back by Michael's. And this gal said, no way, I don't know him. And I wouldn't blame her. And Michelle says, he's harmless. And this gal's like, I'm not going back there. I don't know him. She goes, trust me, he's a big teddy bear. Just go back, you're gonna be fine. Just drop and run, you're gonna be okay. So here she is at my door, standing like this with this 6-pack of adult beverages, and I take it from her and I said, thank you. Now here's me operating with a little boldness. I said, would you like to come in? By the way, not in a creeper fashion, just a little boldness. Would you like to come in? And she says, no. And I said, are you sure? I just made dinner. And she says, no. And so now here's me with a little bit more boldness. Again, not creeper-ish, just boldness. And I said, are you sure? I made enough for more than 2 people. And for whatever reason, you'd have to ask her. I'm thinking it may have been poor judgment in hindsight, but she said yes. So she came in, we sat down, I fed her dinner, we had this amazing conversation. And this happened on January 25th, 1993. That was my first date with my wife, Shannon. So I tell you this Because sometimes we got to go to these awkward places and have these stretch and grow moments. If we want to get these things in our lives that are so meaningful and important to us, you got to embrace this if you're going to grow that mental vigor and we're going to have this meaningful, purposeful existence. All right, well, and it was an opportunity for me to choose happiness as well, as you might imagine. Well, emotional intelligence is one of those tools that can get us there. Have you ever heard of emotional intelligence? You may have heard it referred to as EQ, which is actually the emotional quotient. It's the degree to which we have emotional intelligence. Sometimes you'll see EI, which seems more intuitive, right? I was introduced to it as EQ, so I'm going to talk about EQ. So now EQ, if you're not familiar with it, it's the ability to be aware of, control, and express one's emotions and to judiciously manage interpersonal relationships. It's so important. Awareness, control, and express one's emotions. So there are some principles related to EQ. 5 big overarching principles, and there's a lot of information that underlies these, what it really means. So the 5 I want to introduce you to, the very first one is self-awareness. Have you ever met somebody that's not self-aware? No doubt we probably all operate in that capacity. We're just going through life and we're doing our things, not even realizing what we might be putting out there to the world, right? The emotions that we're putting out there. And you've probably met these people too that are not self-aware and they look angry, or you can see drama on their face and you just want to avoid that at all costs, or they're sad, or maybe they're too happy to the point of maybe being a little crazy. But all of these things, if we're not controlling them and recognizing what we're putting out there, there's appropriate times for these, right? But if we're putting these things out there to the world, it could create barriers to good communication. People shut down. They don't want to engage you because, well, particularly drama. If I see this going on, if something smells like drama, I'm going to run from it because I don't have the time or the energy to invest in that. And people will do that. If you look angry, they may not want to touch it, or sad, maybe they can't emotionally get wrapped up into it. We just need to be aware of what we're putting out there. And that kind of leads us to that second principle, and it's self-regulation. So we're going to have emotions. We're going to have emotional responses to things that happen in our lives. But we need to be able to take that as we're having that emotional response before we convey it and work to manage it, work to control our thoughts, our actions, and those responses so that we can keep ourselves open to having good communication with other people. So self-regulation is so important. And in this space, sometimes we just need to pause. Well, here's something we need to take it in and thoughtfully consider before we respond. If you want to be really good at this, I encourage you to, if you're not already doing this, practice active listening. There's a great active listening model. I'm not going to dive into it here, but the short version is this. You're thoughtfully considering what others are saying. You're seeking to understand through this process as you ask probing questions and seek clarity. But you're not working on a rebuttal, right? You're really listening to other people, but you do pause and take it all in. So important. How about this? How many of you feel that you're empathetic? You walk in empathy. Well, if you raise your hand, this is good news for you because empathy is a key driver of emotional intelligence. And if you have it, you kind of have a leg up on the rest of us. But there's good news for the rest of us too. Because unlike IQ that's set at an early age, EQ, it's a muscle. We can stretch and grow in this thing. We can grow it throughout our entire lives if we're willing to commit to it and embrace it. And empathy is one of those places that we can grow in to develop EQ. So here's the deal. A lot of people confuse empathy with sympathy. People think that if I'm going to be empathetic and somebody has some drama going on over here, I've got to embrace their drama. I have to agree with their drama. I've got to become part of this situation that is nothing but drama. It's not the case at all. Empathy is seeking to understand other people's perspectives. What do they see? So if you could look through their lenses of life, how are they viewing life? And if you get your head in that space, you can better understand why they're viewing life that way. And if you can get there, you can develop good communication strategies to speak to other people in a relevant manner. We can have meaningful communications. And the really cool thing here is if their perspective is off, not simply because they don't agree with you, but maybe you have a piece of information they don't have. Maybe they don't have access to it. And if you have good relationships with them, if you're seeking to understand, if you can have meaningful dialogue, you can provide this piece of information to them, which might open up their purview. Now they have a whole brand new perspective, right? And this is where we can develop these deep relationships. It's so important. Empathy is a big deal. Social skills as well. So when I think about social skills, there's some things we can do that maybe we don't practice as often as we should. And that's appreciating other people, letting them know that we appreciate them, praising them for the work that they do. We have to honor our commitments. This is so important when we think about social skills. These things relate to it and help us build deep, meaningful relations as well. So many different practices in here, but one I would tell you, and it's not a strong suit for me, and it's providing other people with feedback. And it's the feedback they need to hear, which is a stretch and grow moment for many of us, because it's not awesome delivering people information that you know they're not going to receive well, or you suspect they might not receive well. But it's the thing they need to hear so they can put a fine point on themselves to do a better job, in life with others that they come in contact with, for your organization, anybody that is connected to them. They may need to know this thing to grow. And we have to assume positive intent if we're receiving that information for others. So let's go there. Motivation is the final component I want to talk about. And you have to be motivated to improve. And if you're going to be motivated to improve, you need to seek out proactively critical feedback. And I do it on the regular. This is one area that I actually feel pretty good about. People, by and large, don't go searching for it. Hey, tell me where I'm deficient. Tell me where, I've got blinders onto. What don't I see? There's a lot of ways we can ask this question. But I have some tools I use. And it's pretty cool because other people's perspectives, when they feed into your life, they're going to see things that you don't see. So it's great when we can open ourselves up, because we can build deep, meaningful relationships with others when we allow them access in that regard. So whether it's somebody that's reporting to you, maybe it's a peer, or maybe it's even with your boss, right? When we give people that kind of access, there's a lot of trust involved with that. And if we have trust, we can build deep relationships. So there's a model I introduced last year when we all met in Olympia, if you happen to be there. And maybe it's a model, I don't know where I grabbed it from. I've been using it for years, but maybe you're familiar. There's 3 questions I ask, and there's psychology behind it. And it's simply this: how are you doing? How am I doing? And how are we doing? Now, I'd take a deep dive into that model, and if you're really interested about it, and it has paid dividends, I've got a process I use when I do this. If you email Laura, she'll provide that to you. I'll spell it out, what it is I do and the benefits of it, and I'm happy to do that. But I learned something new this last year. I had a gentleman, he's mid-career. He wanted me to mentor him, and here's how he introduced this to me. He came to me and he said this: what do you know that I don't know, that I need to know, that's keeping me from where I need to go? And I thought, whoa, what a question. What do you know that I don't know, that I need to know, that's keeping me from where I need to go? He recognized he had blinders on to some things in his life, and it was going to take some outside perspective, some people that might be able to provide him some wisdom to uncover some of these things so he could go take action on them and be a better person, right? Put a finer point on all that he was working to do. And I love that. And I'll tell you, if you're ever proactively seeking this information out from other people, I would encourage you. Feedback loops are so important. Come back to that individual, thank them for providing that input into your life, and let them know, I took action on that thing. Did you see it? And they might not know you've done it, but they're going to feel valued. They're going to feel heard, which is really cool. Here's something you might find out, though. You took action, but you had miscommunication, and miscommunication abounds. It's why we have some of these relational issues. They may say, hey, look, I saw you did that. That's cool, but that's not what I was talking about. You know what that means? It means the problem still exists. You've got some work to do, so now you can uncover that thing and go take action. Now, I should tell you, I have had some significant EQ fails in my life. So EQ is one of those things that if you have people that are exceptional leaders, chances are they have a high level of EQ. If you run into people that are exceptional at building and maintaining and growing relationships, EQ is probably the driver. I mean, it's that arrow you want to have in your quiver if you're going to be successful in relationships by any stretch. And part of it is if you're working with a high degree of EQ, you can read people and you could read situations really well. And it's one of those things that allow you to craft your communications and your behaviors, this expression of emotions, so we can speak in a relevant manner to other and grow relationships with them as we uncover what's meaningful to them. So my EQ fails. So one of them, I'm working in healthcare. I'm an executive leader at an organization here in the Tri-Cities called the Tri-Cities Cancer Center, and we had just hired a brand new physician, a radiation oncologist. So if you're not familiar with them, they're much like surgeons. They're just doing their work with radiation. So they start school the same time you and I do as little kids, but they don't get out until they're sometime between 32 and 34 years of age, right? They'll go and they'll do this subspecialty training and maybe a fellowship. So they're in school a long time, and they're trained to always be right. They have to be. People's lives are on the line. But with this can come a certain amount of ego. But there are authorities, right? Well, we've got this brand new physician. I'm going to call him Dr. Go, G-O, Dr. Go, and he is working to establish himself as an authority in our organization. I've met other doctors that when I say, well, hello, Dr. Smith, hello, Dr. Jones, they tell me to call them by their first names, not Dr. Go. Dr. Go was Dr. Go. So I'm a big believer that we all have superpowers. It's true. You've got superpowers. I've got them. Mine happens to be snarkiness, and I am really gifted in it. And I mean like exceptional. And I walk it out on a daily basis. So here I am walking it out inside the cancer center. I'm heading through the clinic one day, and I'm coming through. Here's Dr. Go with his team in front of him. And I says, hey, Dr. Go. And he says, hey, Michael, how you doing? And I thought, oh, look, he's engaged me. I said, I'm doing great. I said, crazy deal. I said, I had a dream about you. I said, I had a dream last night. You were in it. He says, what? I said, yeah, it was a crazy deal. You were in my dream last night and you had a stick horse. And he says, I had a what? I said, a stick horse, you know, like you had when you were a kid. And he goes, I didn't have one. I said, you did in my dream and you were riding it. And there was theme music and it went like this. See him riding out into the sun, radiating people just for fun. Dr. Go, Dr. Go, Dr. Go. His team is dying laughing. I'm thinking I'm really funny. The whole time I'm doing this, he's shaking his head going, no, 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 no. I finished, he says, didn't happen. I said, it did in my dream. And I took off and I thought to myself, you know, that's the funniest thing I've done on a Tuesday so far. Here's the problem. Here's the EQ fail. I was reading him while I was doing this and I didn't stop. This was so ridiculous. I thought there's no way anybody could be offended by it, but he was. And through his eyes, if I was acting with this empathy and looking through his lenses, I minimized his existence. He's working to establish himself as a physician leader in our organization. Here's his team, and all he saw from me was I was making light of his situation. The problem for me was, now I'm in a really deep hole with not only do I gotta get out of the hole, I got an uphill climb because I'm charged with building his practice. I'm also charged with working on program development with him. Not awesome. So employ EQ. I might have had a level of it. It might have been a low level of it, but I wasn't using it that day. But it's a difference maker, EQ. Building bonds that support, strengthen, and revitalize. So people in our lives are so important. I'm a big believer in it, and I will tell you there's things about you that are uniquely you that are just what we need in any given situation that's going to be a difference maker. And when I recognized how much I really needed others in my life, I was only 12 years old. So, and if you take me back to 12, this whole thing about girls freaking me out, it definitely started back there. Because here I'm 12, I would love to have a steady, but there's no way I'm going to be talking to any girls. But at this point in my life, one of the things I had going on, an area that I was bold and truly enjoyed, was playing soccer. And I was a really aggressive soccer player. I was a goalie. And when anybody came downfield, I met them. The shooter, I came out, met him, dove at the ball. I was constantly diving for the ball, which meant I took a lot of kicks. But it's how I rolled. So I go to this private school at this time. Got about 28 students, really small class. 3/4 of them are girls. Oh yeah, a couple of guys in there. Well, we are going to enjoy some PE. And we're playing inside. It's dodgeball. You remember dodgeball? Oh, I was so excited. Everybody loves dodgeball. You might also remember when you're 12 years old, 6th grade, you don't change your clothes for PE. So here we are. We're in the gym. The balls are lined up on the court. Our backs, are against the wall here. I've got a bunch of girls and a couple of guys on my team. The other team, their backs are against the wall. Same deal. Bunch of girls, couple of guys. And the balls are out center court. Now there's kind of two strategies to dodgeball. If you're a fast kid, you race out center court, you grab a ball and you start beaning people, right? If you're not a fast kid, you kind of hang back, you try to dodge a few, maybe occasionally catch one and bring one of your tagged teammates back in. So I'm not the fastest kid in class, but I'm pretty fast. But what I am is I'm super aggressive. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to apply my soccer skills. And by doing this, I am so going to impress all of these girls in this class that certainly one of them is going to want to go out with me. This is 12-year-old Michael logic here. Standing there ready to go, whistle blows. I go racing out, and here's what I do. I dive. I'm flying like Superman through the air. I come down and I go to snatch a ball, and right when my body hit the deck, I blew my pants out. Literally from the top of my belt loop to the bottom of the crotch of my pants, wide open. I'm laying on the floor. My tighty-whities are hanging out. Who's behind me? A bunch of girls and a couple of guys who no doubt are dying. And I'm thinking to myself, things are going really fast and then it slows way down. I thought, I have got to get off the floor. But I thought to myself, if I push up onto my knees, my pants are going to open up even wider, and I've got all these girls behind me. Well, that's no good. So I thought I could turn around. I could face them so they can't see this, and I can do that same activity. Pants are going to open up, and I'm protected, but who's on the other side? Bunch of girls and a couple of guys. I don't know how I did it. I managed to get up off the floor. I went and pressed myself up against the back wall, and I'm falling apart. I'm falling apart because this is 1982. There's no cell phones. There's nobody coming to the rescue. Mom and dad aren't even home. I don't have a change of clothes, which means I'm going to have to go through the rest of my school day with my briefs showing, and eventually I'm going to have to get on public transit. Not an awesome situation, right? Imagine being 12. I just wanted to die right there. Well, right at that moment, this gal that was in my class, I didn't see it happen, but she had left the gym right when I blew my pants out. She came back in and she had a windbreaker and she gave it to me. She's like, Michael, tie it around your waist, cover yourself, cover your backside. Her name was Terry Muller. She had me covered. She had my backside covered, and she did it because we had a bond. Terry and I were friends. We grew up on the outskirts of Walla Walla, riding horses together. We were our closest neighbors of the same age. And because I had this bond, she had my back. And I'll tell you, I tell my team, big things happen out on the edge, that place that people don't want to go to. It's scary, it's risky, and those people that are bold that take it all the way out there, amazing things can happen. And it's one of those places when you're right out there on the precipice, you could fall, disappear into the abyss, or you can soar to new heights. But if you're gonna go there, go with somebody else. Take someone with you, so if you slip, falter, they can grab a hold of you and pull you back to safety. And that's what Terry was for me. You gotta build these bonds that support, strengthen, and you'll be revitalized when you do it. Well, I'll tell you, we've got to be bold, we've got to be confident, we've got to be courageous if we're going to revitalize. It's true. We've got to take these actions. Again, more stretch and grow moments for us, right? We're building up this mental vigor. Well, there's some things that we can do. First, I'd tell you, say yes. Say yes to stretch. Say yes to the things in your life that are so meaningful and enriching, but even when you don't want to, when you're tired. And I'll give you an example, and you probably can relate. My wife and I will come home after a long day. We're tired, we're spent, we just want to melt into the couch and pet the dogs, right? But we'll have somebody call us up, friends, family, say, hey, you want to go out? And we just want to say, this is a really good place, I don't want to move. But every time we say yes, and we go meet our friends or family members, we end up having some great dialogue and an amazing time. We recharge, right? It's these things that refresh us, revitalize us, and they often provide us with some new perspective, which is really, really cool. So you say yes, get active, and do it with somebody else. Develop an accountability partner. So if you're thinking, I should get up and work out in the mornings, find somebody to do it with. Get out there, get active. You're gonna build back that physical strength, right? As we're working on our mental vigor, it's a good plan. Volunteer. There's nothing like helping others win. When we feed into the lives of other people, there's great intrinsic rewards in this. I'll tell you, you can build bridges and you can tear down mountains when you're doing it with other people. But the really cool thing is you're investing in others, you're investing in community, and we all get to enjoy that. And that is so cool. Plan a vacation and do it with somebody else. So my wife and I, what we'll do, we'll walk the dogs at some ridiculous hour in the morning, but we talk about where we'd like to go, right? And so we start thinking about these things. And it doesn't have to be a big endeavor. We're sitting in an environment right now that planning that vacation may not be the thing to do, but there's great opportunity with outdoor spaces. Just last year, we decided to take a motorcycle ride. It was here in Washington to go up and watch a lumberjack competition. We talked about it, we planned it, we looked forward to it, and then we went out and did it, and it was amazing. So plan a trip with somebody. Maybe it's a good time to do a road trip and just go take in the scenery. Join a group. This is good stuff. You know, there's groups for all occasions. So whether it's a car club or you enjoy crafts or maybe it's wine drinking, we don't judge, particularly not here in the heart of Washington wine country, but get out there and do it with other people. There's great opportunity to grow relationships with others. And then I would tell you, remember that together we're better. I'm a firm believer in it. We're firm believers in it. When we link up with other people, where you have strengths, we've got weaknesses, and we need you on the team. And it's so good to link up because together we can go do some incredible things that we never would have done on our own. Well, if we're going to do all of these things, we need to embrace self-care. So very, very important. We need to do this to avoid burnout, right? We need to take care of ourselves. There's some attributes that are recognized that if you're practicing these things, it can lead to resiliency. We'll have that vitality. We can bounce back from adversity. And here they are. Self-awareness is huge. So it's a part of EQ, right? We're developing this skill set. Connections are a big deal. They can help with that resiliency as well. Optimism, choosing to be happy. So very, very important. Again, we're going to talk about self-care right now, but it's one of these components related to bouncing back and setting goals. So what does it look like as it relates to self-care? Well, you got to invest in yourself, right? And by this, I mean, sometimes you just got to disconnect and unplug. And we are running so fast and we don't think we can let up, but it's not sustainable for an ever and ever, amen. Every once in a while, you got to pull back and take care of you and don't feel selfish about it, because we need you refreshed, recharged, operating at 100% because we need you on the team. Remember, you've got some unique skill sets, some assets, some resources, some understandings the rest of us don't have. We need you in the game. For my friends that are introverts, in particular, my wife happens to be one. You wouldn't know it if we're hanging out. She's very engaging. We go out and we do our thing. It recharges me. It drains my wife. She needs a little bit more time to just disconnect, and I need to recognize and honor that space. But we all need it. We've got to commit to this thing. So it could be prayer, meditation, or maybe it's another opportunity here to get out and get active, right? Get out there and do the things. And it doesn't mean you have to do it with somebody else. Maybe it's a solo endeavor like cycling or running or swimming, or maybe you do it with somebody else. Maybe you're playing tennis. But just get out there because we need this. It can help refresh, recharge, and then we're building up that physical strength, which is pretty cool because if we partner that with this mental vigor, woo, watch out world, here you come. Hobbies. I hope you have them. If you don't, pursue your passions. Get out there, get invested. I love this. For me, I'm a musician amongst doing other things, but it's one of those things every time I get to working on creating new music, it's a space I love to be in and I feel good, but it's a recharge for me. And finally, laugh. I love to laugh. And my favorite way to laugh is with other people, and it's usually at myself. There's studies that have been done on this as it relates to laughter and health and wellness. It can help reduce our stress, right? It provides us with new perspective. It's all the same benefits that were listed when we were talking about choosing optimism, choosing to be happy. Those same things apply. So we talked about heart health and joints, the aches and pains, our ability to recover and longevity of life. Laugh with other people. I do crazy, goofy things on a daily basis. I'm happy to share them. Together we laugh and we're building some bonds through that, but it's definitely a good opportunity for self-care. Well, the final thing I would tell you is be yourself. We need you for exactly who you are. Everything that makes up the unique you, we need on the team. Your presence is going to be the thing that wins the day. You're going to have perspective that none of the rest of the people in the room have because of places you've been, things you've seen. And it doesn't matter where you're at in your career or in the hierarchy of your organization. The unique you is going to win the day. Now, I will tell you, and you probably have experienced this, sometimes there's individuals that are personality plus. So I've got a lot of personality, but I've met some folks that make me look like a wallflower, and I'm not kidding. And I met one of them one day at an event that was at my former employer's office. We've got this big kind of auditorium. We had 100 people in there, and as this event ended, everybody's dispersing through the 4 different doors that led out of this room. One bank of doors at the very back of the room. The only reason you would go out them is 1, you're lost, didn't know the facility, or 2, the restrooms were out that way. So as everybody's leaving the room, this gentleman comes through those doors. And I saw it and I thought to myself, he just came from the restroom. Not that I cared, it was just an observation. Right then, this guy looks, he locks eyes with me and he starts coming right towards me. There's nobody else around, so I thought, I guess I'm gonna meet this guy. So tell me if you've ever had this happen. You leave the bathroom, you just got done washing your hands, they're not 100% dry, and you run into somebody you know. I mean, it's almost a guarantee, right? Your hand's a little wet, it's really awkward. This guy, I'm pretty certain he just pulled it out of a bucket of water. If I had seen his hand, I'm pretty certain he had water droplets coming off it. And he hits my palm with a soaking wet hand, and he goes, "Oh, my hand's wet." And because I'm a relationship building type of person, I wanted to help him recover, so I said, for all the right reasons, right? As in, he just washed his hands. And he looked at me and he goes, absolutely. He goes, I just came from the bathroom. I saw a quarter at the bottom of the bowl, so I went ahead and fished it out. Gross. I do give him points for being really quick and witty, but that was so disgusting. So I gotta tell you, if that's you and your personality's set to 11, you might wanna turn that thing down to 7 so the rest of us can enjoy you. With that, I just wanna remind you that to apply that corrective perspective to achieve peace, prosperity, and well-being. Remember, building these bonds, they support, strengthen, and revitalize. And finally, we need the authentic you. The real you is the thing that's going to win the day. And we're so happy you're here. And with that, I want to welcome Lara back. It was a virtual presentation day.
It was, and it was a great presentation.
Yeah, well, it was great to have everybody join us. We appreciate your partnership. We look forward to seeing you in the Tri-Cities here in the near term.
Yeah, absolutely. Let us know what we can do to help support you. And remember, it's always good to have people that have your back and a windbreaker handy.
Oh, thank you for that windbreaker, Sandy. Hey, I'll tell you what, be safe, be healthy. We hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Take care.